And we are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok, going to be live streaming really my first of this big weekend of drafts of my real fantasy football leagues. This is a $100 public Yahoo league, half PPR format, going to be drafting in just 4 minutes. I got the third pick in this draft. I'm going to be talking through my strategy throughout this draft. If you're watching live on TikTok, you're going to want to come to the YouTube live. Link to that is in the TikTok bio. You can see me in a real live 10-person Yahoo draft, $100 on the line. I think first place is $500 in this draft. I got the third overall pick, and I got to admit, this is an interesting spot. I do have the third overall pick in a high-stakes draft I have coming up in a couple of days, so this will be a good practice run for that. I lean towards Bijan and Brees at 3 here over Tyreek and CeeDee Lamb, just me personally, with how I like to attack these drafts, how much wide receiver value I feel like is in rounds 3 through 7. I also think there's a lot of high upside running backs this season in rounds 11 plus. I'll show you guys my must draft list over on TikTok coming up in this live stream. But I'm on YouTube as well, live streaming a live draft in literally 3 minutes. The draft starts. I got the third overall picks, a half PPR league, only 2 receivers, 1 flex. Again, kind of makes me lean towards Bijan and Brees over Tyreek and Lamb. I do think I would go Lamb over Tyreek too. I had to choose between one of those 2 guys. But if CeeDee Lamb slides to 3, I'm going to be strongly considering him too. There's a lot of really, really great values, though, at the receiver position. Really tough to find league-winning upside like Bijan and Brees later in the draft. Do I start Goff or Jaden Daniels? Yeah, week 1, I'm fine going with Goff. Mute this Yahoo. That's crazy. Tyreek or Lamb, 100% over Bijan and Brees. So, it's a half PPR league. You only need to start 2 receivers. I can start 3 running backs and 2 receivers. There's just such a clear teardrop at the running backs. And again, I think there's a lot of wide receiver value in these drafts. I think you got to consider Tyreek, Lamb, and Bijan and Brees. Really, all 4 of those guys. If you're picking really 3, 4, and 5th overall, I think all those guys, the guys you should be considering. I think I would go Lamb over Tyreek, though. I think it's just a little bit safer, a little less target competition. Why don't I like Aaron Jones? Because Aaron Jones is playing on the worst offense he's ever been on in his entire career. And he's splitting time with Ty Chandler. Hey, Sam, I pick 4. I'm leaning Brees over Bijan because of Algier news. But Bijan has a good playoff schedule. What should I do? Yeah, so Maxie, I don't care about the playoff schedules at all. I could care less about the playoff schedules. We do not know which defenses are actually going to be good and which defenses are going to be so injured by the fantasy football playoffs. It's just impossible to actually know who has a good playoff schedule, in my opinion, this early in the year. I'll start looking at that by like week 6 when we get a better sense of how the defenses are actually shaking out. So I wouldn't consider that at all. I personally lean Bijan over Brees just because I think there's a little bit more touchdown ceiling with Bijan than Brees. I'm actually a little bit more scared about Brees' direct backup than Tyler Algier. And yeah, I saw there were some comments that people were scared about with Tyler Algier saying he's going to have a big role in the offense. And he will have a role in the offense. I really don't think it's going to be the goal line role, though. Meanwhile, Braylon Allen for the Jets could legitimately be the goal line running back for the Jets week 1. Just would not shock me at all. Brees Hall has a little bit more receiving ceiling, but they're actually pretty close. Let me compare them. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, guys, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. I'm doing a live Yahoo half PPR draft from this 3 spot here coming up in a minute. This is a real $100 draft against 9 other people, 10-person PPR draft. Let's compare Bijan and Brees here because I've been leaning Bijan and I'll probably end up taking Brees. It's in one of my drafts if I'm in the spot a lot, so I don't have Bijan on literally every single one of my teams. We got both of them with an RB1 ceiling. The floor for Bijan, I kind of agree with this, is just a bit higher. None of the injury history that Brees has. I think the Falcons offense is more likely to play faster than the Jets offense this year. I do think the Jets will be a slow run-first offense, which isn't necessarily bad for Brees. The target share should be there. I think that the thing that people overlook, though, with the receiving roles here, Bijan's receiving role was actually pretty comparable to Brees's last season as a rookie. 17% target share. There's actually a higher target share than Brees Hall had last season. He was a less efficient receiver, actually more efficient in the touchdown category, more efficient in a yards per reception basis. He was actually running more routes. And I would actually imagine Bijan runs more routes than Brees again this season, just given who their backups are and given the pace that these 2 offenses are going to play at. So I kind of lean Bijan in half PPR, especially. In PPR, I do think Brees has that ceiling as a receiver that we saw down the stretch last season. I mean, finished last season on a tear, at least 20 points in 4 of his last 5 games. He went over 23 in his last 3. But yeah, I'm actually more scared about Braylon Allen than I am about Tyler Algier. And I think they're both fine handcuffs, high upside handcuffs. I'm not drafting Travis Kelce this year because I don't want a 35-year-old tight end who I don't think is going to be at full steam in the fantasy football playoffs, who last year went under 10 points in all of the fantasy football playoff games. All right, I'm about to be on the clock here. Just switching up the background on TikTok to show you my must targets. All right, and CeeDee Lamb's there. So I'm at 3 here. It's between Lamb and Brees for me. Walter's saying Lamb by just an edge here. I think I'm going to go Lamb. I was just saying Brees and Bijan were the two I do like going running back early. CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill, I think, are in their own receiver tier as well, though, this year. I have a pretty good feeling Achane in this 10-man half PPR league will be there for me at my second pick, too. We're going to do it. We're going to push in, and we're going to go with CeeDee Lamb. I'm taking CeeDee Lamb with the 3rd overall pick in this draft. Again, we're drafting live on YouTube, guys. Link is in the TikTok bio if you're watching. I can share screen on the YouTube live. The better viewing experience. You can see the Walter Picks app, how I'm using it during the draft as well. Walter did sort of nudge me towards CeeDee Lamb there. We'll see how that works out. Definitely want one of these running backs now with my next pick. I want Bijan and Brees will be gone. I want Jonathan Taylor if he slides, but he probably won't slide that far. Jahmyr Gibbs probably won't slide that far, but I would take him for sure. Saquon, same thing, probably not going to slide that far. For me, I'm looking at Achane next as the next tier here. And his Yahoo ADP, I believe, is actually pretty low. Yeah, his ADP, his breakdown is 48. X rank is 25. We got him at 21. I feel like decent chance I can get him pick 2 or 3 here in a 10-man. I got Neighbors in the 6th. That's an absolute steal. Absolute steal. If you're getting Malik Neighbors in the 6th, that is a league-winning pick. Kyler fell to me in the 10th round, and I took him, but I have James Conner. Is that bad? No, I don't think that's bad. I'm fine investing in that offense. In the 10th round, you're getting a quarterback. I think we haven't projected as quarterback 5. I think you're getting a top 5 quarterback in the 10th round. I mean, there's just no way that that's bad. And I think James Conner, he catches enough passes too that's actually a bit of good correlation, not necessarily bad correlation in your lineup. Look how far what is happening in this draft? Oh my God, I wish I had this 8th pick. Look at this. I'm doing a live draft. This is a real $100 draft over on Yahoo, half PPR format. Link is in the TikTok bio if you want to watch on YouTube, where I'm sharing screen to this draft right now. I had the 3rd pick. I took CeeDee Lamb and went McCaffrey, Tyreek, CeeDee Lamb. A pretty normal start, in my opinion. Personally, I think it should go McCaffrey, Lamb, then Tyreek. And personally, I'm taking Bijan over Tyreek or Brees over Tyreek, I think, in that situation. But you got to consider Tyreek there as well. But then this draft's gone completely off the rails already. Jonathan Taylor went 4th overall. Then Brees went 5. Saquon went 6th. Justin Jefferson went 7th. Then Bijan went 8th. I mean, an absolute snag if you're getting Bijan at 8 overall. Why is Achane so high? No hate. Yeah, JT was a reach here. Saquon was a reach here too. JT and Saquon should not go before Brees or Bijan in any drafts. That's just unacceptable behavior right there. What's up, Kyle? How we doing? I'm doing great, man. We are in draft season. I'm in a real draft right now. We got football on our TV screens in 6 days? 5 days? I mean, we're here, man. This is the best time of year. I'm pumped up. We got Jahmyr Gibbs at 10 overall here. St. Brown went 9. Jamar Chase is sliding. If Jamar Chase is there at my pick, there's not a doubt in my mind who I'll be taking. Really, like auto selection for me at this point with where I'm at. I took CeeDee Lamb first. Any of these 2 receivers, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, if they're there, I'm auto selecting them. I'm going to be strongly considering Achane. I saw the comment, why the Achane love? No hate, but why we love Achane so much? Well, the reason we like Achane so much is there's only so many running backs that can realistically finish as the number 1 overall running back in fantasy football. There's really not that many. Most of them are already off the board in this draft. I actually think Achane is the last running back available that could beat all of these running backs left. There's at least a path to him getting there because he has the receiving efficiency and the receiving ability in a PPR or half PPR format to compete with the Christian McCaffreys, the Brees Halls, the Saquon Barkleys, the Bijan Robinsons, the Jahmyr Gibbs. He was the running back 4 last year in points per game. This is part of my thing. And there goes Jamar Chase. He's sliding a little bit further than he was just a week ago. Very interesting to see where he's going in this draft. Again, we're doing a live draft over on YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience. I'll read the comments in both. I promise I'm looking at the chats in both. But I'm more likely to answer the comments on YouTube because I can pull the comments up on screen. If the app does not sync during your draft, it's probably because of the ESPN extension. You need the ESPN extension. I can't wait for the season, especially since I'm in a league again this year. I don't have to keep annoying you with the player prop questions on Sundays. Kyle, we're going to do the props and the fantasy this year on the Sunday, so don't worry about that. But yeah, going back to the Achane thing, the reason I'm so in on Achane and why I think you should be in on Achane too is I think he can pay off his draft cost in the exact same role as last season. Like, I actually think he's still a good pick if he's just in the same role as last season. And there's also a path to him being in a bigger role than last season because his last season's role wasn't that big. He saw a third of the carries. He saw 11.4% target share. He finished number 4 in running back points per game in half PPR formats. And he's getting drafted. I mean, Derrick Henry just got picked ahead of him in this draft, 2, 4, 6. He's getting drafted as the 8th running back right now. Again, I think he's the last running back left. I mean, there's a path. You can tell a story, sure, for Derrick Henry. I think he's a bit of a risky pick. But you can at least tell a story for Derrick Henry to get 20 touchdowns and win fantasy leagues. That's definitely possible. There goes Kyren Williams, who, maybe you could tell a story about too. And we got a big running back run. A lot of people going early running backs in this draft. Jacobs is not going in the 4th. Yeah, we'll see where Jacobs goes in this draft here that I'm in live on YouTube. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. It is draft season, the best time of the year. Isaiah Pacheco goes. I feel like I got to reach for Achane here. I think I got to go Achane. I like Achane more than ETN. I think Achane's ceiling is higher than ETN's. And Walter agrees with me here too. And like Walter's projecting ETN just a bit higher. But the way I think and the way I draft, I want to draft guys that can win my league. I'm looking for the highest ceiling at all stages of the draft. The floor, I understand being a little bit lower for Achane, but I'm not trying to avoid last place. I'm trying to come in first place in my drafts. I didn't go running back in round 1. Marvin Harrison Jr. is still there, though. That's kind of crazy. I haven't seen him slide this far in drafts. I do like both these guys, and since I didn't go Bijan, I can't take them. Achane's also like a little further down the Yahoo list, which has me thinking maybe he'll slide to my 3rd pick more likely than these guys, but I'm just going to lock it in, man, and take Achane in round 2. Not going to play any games. There goes Drake London. Tyreek team probably wouldn't have gotten Achane. This McCaffrey team easily could have taken him. I hope Marvin Harrison Jr. slides a couple more picks, but that's also pretty unlikely. There goes Marvin Harrison Jr. We're paying the price for taking Achane here. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. I'm in a live draft. Go for it. Yeah, I probably should have risked it. All right, we're back on the clock here. ETN's still there. The quarterbacks are still there, which in a half PPR league like this, I'm not actually that scared to go Allen or Hurts here. I assume Neighbors is still here too, but Marvin Harrison Jr. just went. My God, Malik Neighbors is all the way down. Absolutely ridiculous. I could go Cup. Got 25 seconds here on the clock. I could go Cup. It's not a PPR format, though. I think I'm just going to go Josh Allen. Lamar just went too. I mean, that's a ridiculous spot for Lamar to go. 10-man league. We're doing it. Taking Josh Allen here in the 3rd. A bit early, but at least I can know I got better value than the Lamar team. I think there's a decent chance Neighbors is there for me on the way back too. Slew, what's going on? What's going on, Slew? We're live on YouTube right now, Slew. Come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. We're doing a live Yahoo draft. I'm actually drafting from the 3-slot, Slew, and I think I'm in our league. I got the 3-slot too, so you can see a little bit of a preview of what might happen in our league. How crazy is a Murray, McBride, Harrison Jr. stack full PPR? I would love this. I think depending on the price you got these guys at. Earlier in the live stream, someone said they got Kyler Murray in round 10. On ESPN, Kyler Murray's been ranked as like quarterback 11. I mean, the rankings over there is crazy. 10-man early QB is fine. I totally agree, Sean. I think 10-man is the better format to go early QB because there's still plenty of running back and receiver value later in these drafts. And also in leagues where you only start 2 receivers and two running backs, like look at my team right now. Look at the roster settings here. When you only start 2 receivers, some leagues you start 3. In the leagues you only start 2 receivers, 2 running backs, quarterbacks take up a bigger percentage of your total points. Josh Allen over the last 4 years, guys. Josh Allen has been top 3 in fantasy points per game at the quarterback position all 4 years. He's been number 1 in 3 of those 4 years. He's as consistent as it gets, not only on a season-to-season basis, but a week-to-week basis. I mean, look at the points you're getting in your lineup, and I really am not that scared to see what Josh Allen's going to be without Stephon Diggs. People were scared when Tyreek Hill left the Chiefs. The season after Tyreek Hill left the Chiefs, Pat Mahomes had his most efficient season of all time. I think Josh Allen will be fine. If anything, the offense is just going to have to run through Josh Allen even more. It could be even more rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen scored 16 rushing touchdowns last season. The rushing volume is just absolutely ludicrous. 0.9 rushing to almost a touchdown per game for Josh Allen on the ground. Maybe it was 15 rushing touchdowns. I got Achane in the third round. We're worried about his usage with that backfield. Is that a good pick? I just took Achane in the second round of this draft. A 10-man league. Be aggressive with Achane. Don't be scared of drafting Devon Achane. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. What's up, Sam? Full point PPR 12-man league. Do I draft CD number 2 pick? God bless, pal. Yeah, I just took him with the third pick here, and I would be taking him over Tyreek. So I think he's a fine number 2 pick, especially in PPR leagues, especially if you start 3 receivers in your league. I think this is a no-brainer pick, CeeDee Lamb number 2 overall. CeeDee Lamb was the best wide receiver in fantasy football last season. And Tyreek was a close second. But man, fantasy points per game, number 1, 19.5. And in the back half of the season, he was over 20 points per game. A healthy 3.1 yards per route run. Tyreek had him beat on that metric, but Tyreek was just coming off the field a little bit more than CeeDee Lamb was. Tyreek has just a little bit more target competition than CeeDee Lamb has. So yeah, I'm okay going CeeDee Lamb at 2. Yo, Sam, what's good, bro? Waited too long to draft the tight end, and people auto-drafting messed me up. I have Taysom starting right now. Yeah, this is the spot you find yourself in. Guys, if you wait for the tight end cliff, it is a steep one. And honestly, like it does jump kind of quickly to Taysom. Like if you miss the top 12 tight ends, like Taysom Hill suddenly is like a guy you got to consider drafting pretty soon. Because at least he has the rushing touchdown ceiling. Like at least there's a ceiling for Taysom Hill. After Dallas Goedert's off the board, not a single tight end left has any reasonable floor. Like their floors are 0 points from then on every single week. It's going to be brutal. But at least with Taysom Hill, you get a high ceiling with the rushing. Why Achane so much higher than Mostert? Because Mostert's 32 years old. Achane's in year 2, where you see running backs take the biggest leap. Achane was far more efficient last season. Achane averaged more points per game last season than Mostert, despite Mostert crushing him in total touchdowns. So yeah, the ceiling for Achane is way higher. The floor for Achane is way higher. I think Mostert's a pretty good value, though, where he's going, to be clear. I think he is a pretty good value. I'll even consider taking him in this league later in this draft, and I already took Achane. Do you think there's too much value in other positions to take QB high? No, it's quite the opposite. I think it's the exact opposite. I think there's so much value at other positions later in the draft that in round 3, depending on sort of where I'm at in the draft, like I would have taken Marvin Harrison Jr. and Drake London over Josh Allen. I would have taken Devon Achane over Josh Allen if I had gone London and Harrison instead of Achane and hoped to get Achane on the reverse, which maybe I would have. But otherwise, like in round 3, I'm looking at Allen and Hurts because I think there's a long tier of receivers coming up, a pretty long tier of running backs. And I have so much confidence in myself to find some really good values here in the middle rounds. And I'm not going to get hit by the tight end cliff either in this draft. We got Jalen Waddle next. We're not going to go Waddle if we already have Achane. I do like Kenneth Walker a lot. He's usually pretty. Malik Neighbors is still there. We're probably going to take Neighbors. I do like Smith too. Kenneth. He hasn't taken a single running back yet. They both have taken 2 receivers, which kind of makes me want to take Kenneth. Who are the other running backs there still? Kenneth and Mixon, kind of a bigger drop-off to me. Love to see some quarterbacks going between when I took Josh Allen. I do like Malik Neighbors here too. Neighbors is higher up on the list too. I do like Devonta Smith a lot as well. We're going to go Neighbors though. We're going to go Neighbors first. Then it'll be between one of these receivers, Mixon and Kenneth next. I was considering Neighbors versus Josh Allen last time. Feeling pretty good about how this is starting. Wait, did you answer my question, Sam? I ain't even here. Kyler and Ridley for Tua and Jamar, Superflex plus PPR. App said it was real close. Yeah, I mean, this is a fair trade. I think I'd probably prefer the Kyler side. I think that the Kyler is a bigger jump up from Tua in fantasy than Jamar is from Ridley, with Jamar, concerns going on right now too. just a little skittish on Jamar. Who are you drafting against? It's a $100 draft in Yahoo. On Yahoo, there's a public league, $100 draft, and it's been a pretty wild start. Honestly, Jonathan Taylor went before Breece Hall. Saquon went before Bijan Robinson. Feel pretty good about how my team's starting out here. Man, Waddle's still sitting there as wide receiver 14. I already have Achane. I really don't like having receiver running back combos from one team. It's just such a big bet to make on one team. Kenneth is still there. Devontae Smith is still there. It's really between these two guys for me. Half PPR, I do like leaning towards the running backs just a little bit more in the half PPR. I do still think I'll find plenty of wide receiver value later in this draft. I do like Devontae Smith a lot. But I think I'm going to go Kenneth here and just shore up the RB2 slot. We got him pretty decently ahead of all the running backs left. So we're going to go with Kenneth here. All right, we start this draft from the 3 slot. I got my first 5 picks in. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live links in the TikTok bio. If you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. Shout out to all you spending some time on your wonderful Saturdays with me. Is Allen in the 4th? 12-man to steal. Yeah, I like Allen and Hurts in the 4th for sure. And if I miss out on Allen and Hurts, I'm looking for Kyler probably next. That's probably the next QB I'm targeting in the 4 or 5 rounds after Allen and Hurts go. Really, it's going like round 6, 7, 8. Someone early in the stream, so they got him around 10. And if I miss out on Kyler, I think there's plenty of late round quarterbacks to go after. I do like Jaden Daniels late, Caleb Williams late. I like Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence late, Deshaun Watson late too. If I go really late QB, I'll probably take a second quarterback in Deshaun Watson with how late he's going. And I think the ceiling that he has, if he can just stay healthy, I think the Browns are probably going to be top 5 in pass attempts, at least the first half of the season when Nick Chubb is out. They were last year when Nick Chubb was out. He's grabbing Rice in the late 4th or reach. Nope, I took him in the 5th in a 12-man league. I think that's totally reasonable. I'll be looking at him in this draft too. He's still just so far down all the lists because of the suppressed ADP from this offseason. Like he's still like he should be ahead of Zay Flowers, ahead of Terry McLaurin, ahead of Steph Diggs. I think he should be ahead of Michael Pittman. I mean, we have him ranked way ahead of a lot of these guys. Rice is the 2nd best receiver on the board here, based on the Walter Picks app rankings. Thoughts on Njoku? Yeah, I like Njoku a lot. I think he's a decent target at the end of that tight end tier. I was just saying, I think the Browns could be top 5 in pass attempts in the NFL this season. I also think like Njoku, Amari Cooper, and even Jerry Jeudy and Jerome Ford to some extent, they're a little bit insulated from the systemic risk of Deshaun Watson just tanking the Browns because they have a decent backup quarterback in Jameis Winston. Is taking Hurts at early 3 a reach? I mean, I just took Josh Allen in the early 3rd. I don't think it's going to kill you to have Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts on your teams in the 3rd or 4th round. In past years, you would have had to spend a 1st or 2nd round pick to get the type of production that we've seen from both these guys. Josh Allen has been top 3 in fantasy points per game in back-to-back seasons, guys. He's been number 1 quarterback in fantasy points per game in 3 of his last 4 seasons. 25 points per game. In a league, especially if your league, you only start 2 receivers and 2 running backs. You take a quick peek at the tight ends here in this 10-man league, and I do think it's the cliff is a little less scary in the 10-man leagues because even if you wait, you're going to end up with a Jake Ferguson or a David Njoku at least, and you're going to spend almost no draft capital at the position. I will consider Pitts. I will consider Kincaid on this team just because I drafted Josh Allen. Otherwise, I actually have a bit of a fade on Kincaid. His numbers with Dawson Knox are just a bit scary versus without Dawson Knox. Devontae Smith's going way too late in this draft. Nobody wants Devontae Smith. Raheem Mostert getting picked ahead of him? That's absolutely insane. I would have taken Devontae Smith over basically every single one of these players outside of Jalen Waddle. But since I already have Achane, I just wouldn't have much interest in Waddle on the same team. Yeah, these are both smash dynasty picks. Amon-Ra and Chase for sure. Is Allen or Hurts better? Yeah, I lean Allen just barely, just based on what I was just saying. Back to back seasons as a top 3 quarterback in fantasy football, number 1 quarterback in 3 of those 4 seasons. I do think the surrounding talent for Jalen Hurts is much better, which is, I'd be fine if you wanted to take Jalen Hurts over Josh Allen. We got Allen with a slight edge in the Walter Picks app. He was better by like a decent margin last season. 25 points per game versus 21.5 points per game. QB1 versus QB3. I get it. He lost Steph Diggs. I'm really just not that scared about that. These takes have been outrageous. Outrageous takes is what we are here for. We are here for sound and rational takes. And give me pushback on any takes you disagree with, because I'm happy to debate any of these takes and listen to new information and react to that new information. I'm always down to do that too. But yeah, I lean Allen over Hurts, I think. And I just did that in this draft. Why Kelsey? Yeah, so I'm not drafting Travis Kelsey. I have my do not draft list up on the TikTok live. If you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. It's a better viewing experience on the YouTube live. I'm literally in a live draft on the YouTube live in a real Yahoo draft. $100 half PPR draft. I had the 3rd overall pick. My team so far: Josh Allen, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, Devon Achane, Kenneth Walker. I'm locked in. Where would you take a QB in an 8-man league? Yeah, so again, in an 8-man league, I think the lower number of teams in your league, the more value there is to just grabbing one of those elite guys, because you're going to get elite players at every position. Like you can get league-winning top 10 players at different positions later in the draft. You get one of the top 3 quarterbacks matched with some of those guys. It's going to be a tough team to beat in an 8-man league. Like, everyone's team is going to be so good. How does the Walter Picks app help you during the draft? You can see it on the right here. I'm using it during the draft. So, like, ultimately, it helps me decide what position I'm going to target next up here. Like, I'm going to take Kyle Pitts if he's there for me. He might get sniped from this guy. No, he goes to Devontae Smith. He fell way too far to Devontae Smith in this draft. He's probably not going to go Kyle Pitts. So I'm going to take Kyle Pitts here with his pick and feel pretty good about that. What I don't feel good about is Kyler Murray still sitting there. He's going to fall right into the lap of this Marvin Harrison Jr. team. When I spent an early pick on Josh Allen, that's definitely a negative case for doing that. I'm probably gonna go Rashee Rice with my next pick. So the other thing that Walter Picks app helps you with, we got rankings right here to look at all draft, custom to these league scoring settings. Like, I know Rashee Rice is the next best receiver on the board. He's not showing up right now. He is showing up in this top comparison now. Like, it's a clear Rashee Rice pick. This is a smash Rashee Rice pick if he falls to me here. I really hope he does. And he takes Kyler Murray, of course. Please don't take Rashee Rice. He already has 3 receivers. He's not going to. He's got to take a tight end here probably. Or, yeah, there he goes, Evan Ingram. I really hope he doesn't take Rashee Rice. He only has 2 receivers. He seems to actually know about good receivers too with his first 2 picks. How do you feel about later round QB 12-man league? Yeah, he goes Justin Tucker. Let's go. This is peak draft season here. You guys couldn't see on the YouTube last year. I was covering it up. He goes Justin Tucker. Rashee Rice is still on the board, and we got him drafting Justin Tucker. Our number 20 ranked receiver is still on the board, and Justin Tucker gets picked before he takes a flex spot. He takes Justin Tucker. Unreal stuff here in this YouTube live $100 Yahoo half PPR draft, man. I got to join more of these, clearly. I mean, this starting lineup I feel pretty good about. I feel pretty good about how we're looking through the starting lineup, and I know I'm going to find plenty of value here late. We got 3 top 20 receivers in CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, and Rashee Rice. We got a top 5 tight end in Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, who led all tight ends in air yards last season. Kyle Pitts, who basically plays wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, who's going to have his first good quarterback in his NFL career. And Kyle Pitts, who's no longer going to be taken off the field in the red zone for Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith had twice the amount of targets in the red zone as Kyle Pitts had last season. I mean, crazy. This was an unreal Tucker pick, man. This is the exact type of people I love drafting next to. We're taking Rashee Rice between Justin Tucker and Najee Harris, man. I mean, again, this is part of the reason I like to go running back early. Like, looking back, I feel like I'm going to wish I went with Bijan or Breece in this draft. Like, CeeDee Lamb is a safe and really high upside pick. But when Rashee Rice is going in the 7th round, and some of these other receivers I'm going to be seeing getting picked here in the coming rounds, the running backs just aren't the same at this stage of the draft as early in the draft. And I think you can find some receivers that can really smash. I do like some of these running backs still, though. I definitely will take at least a couple more running backs in a half PPR format like this. Jonathan Brooks, I do think there's a IR slot. Definitely like him in a format like this. If you have an IR slot and Jonathan Brooks is going outside the top 100 picks, right now it looks like he's going outside at 109 on Yahoo. Like, he's a good pick outside the top 100 picks. He can win leagues down the stretch for sure. I'm not drafting Zamir White because he's a touchdown-dependent running back on a Gardner Minshew-led offense. No, thank you. No thank you to touchdown-dependent running backs on bad offenses. The reason I don't want to draft Travis Kelce, really, it's a very narrow reason. It's an extremely narrow reason. If you disagree with this really one reason, then you probably should draft Travis Kelce. Because Travis Kelce projects as a top 2 tight end. In a lot of projections, I think he comes out number 1. I think that's reasonable. We have him as number 2, I think, behind Laporta. Problem is he's going in the second or third round in drafts. Extremely, extremely expensive. And then you zoom into last season, and you see when under 10 fantasy points, it is a half PPR league we're looking at, under 7 fantasy points in all 3 fantasy football playoff games. So Travis Kelce helped a lot of people make the fantasy football playoffs last year, but he didn't help anyone win their fantasy football league in the fantasy football playoffs last year. And there was actually a reason for this. He was getting a little rested down the stretch. They weren't pushing Travis Kelce to his limit down the stretch of the fantasy football season last year. And I don't blame them. It worked. He popped off in the actual NFL playoffs. He's a 35-year-old tight end. I think they're going to do something similar this year where they don't push Travis Kelce to his limit down the stretch of the NFL regular season as they gear up for a 3rd straight Super Bowl run. And I don't want to draft a 35-year-old tight end that I'm not confident is going to be at his full strength in the fantasy football playoffs. That's my whole thing with Travis Kelce. He is a top 2 tight end in any given week that he's getting, full throttle workload. I just don't know if he's going to get that in the fantasy football playoffs. Is Achane at 4.4 in a 10-man league good? Yeah, look, I just took him at 2.8 in this 10-man league. I think that's very good. I think Achane outside the second round in really any league is an absolute steal. Can you break down your QB strategy? Like what round? Yeah, so in round 3, I'm willing to take stabs at Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. And if I miss on those 2 guys, I'm looking at Kyler Murray in round 6 and 7. And if I miss on him, then I'm just going to wait. Like I'm going to be the last person in my draft to draft a quarterback most likely. And I'm going to take Jaden Daniels or Trevor Lawrence or Jared Goff or Deshaun Watson, probably 2 of those guys. And then I'll piece it together over the course of the season. I'll be fine. That's my general quarterback strategy. I'm not going to super overpay. Definitely not in the first 2 rounds. Will not be considering quarterbacks. But as you get to the late third round, I start to look at Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts as just clear high floor, high ceiling bets. I do like Brock Bowers. I'm definitely a little scared about the foot soreness. This is not a great time of year to be having foot soreness. They say they feel good about Bowers playing week 1. This is just not the headline I want for Brock Bowers heading into week 1. Ignoring the foot injury for a second, though, the general population of NFL fans and fantasy football managers, they do not realize how good Brock Bowers is. Brock Bowers arguably was up there with Marvin Harrison Jr. and with Malik Nabers in this class as a receiver. He's an extremely, extremely talented and productive receiver. Kind of similar to Kyle Pitts in a sense that they can put up receiver numbers. Kyle Pitts plays wide receiver. He led the NFL in air yards last season, guys, among tight ends. He's been top 2 in air yards every single year of his career, actually, among tight ends. The problem is he has had so many uncatchable air yards, and he has got so few red zone targets, so few touchdowns. Kyle Pitts has 6 career touchdowns in 3 years. But he's been top 2 in air yards. I think this all changes with Kirk Cousins. That's why I took him in this draft. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, I'm doing a live draft on the YouTube Live. You can see I'm sharing my screen right now on the YouTube Live to this live draft I'm in. Real $100 draft here. Happy PPR and Yahoo. Someone took Justin Tucker before I took Rashee Rice, which I'd absolutely love to see. Nothing better than drafting next to people like that. And look at these running backs. I mean, Samir White going around 7. Absolutely a bad pick on my do not draft list. Walter's telling me Tony Pollard Tank Dell is still here. T. Higgins is still here too. I think I'm going to go Tank if Tank is sitting there for me. There goes Jordan Love. Will this guy know to Tank? He took Najee Harris last pick. Those are pretty polar opposite players. We got Tank Dell ranked wide receiver 24. I get another top 25 receiver on this team. Let's see who he goes with. Will he snipe Tank Dell for me? I definitely do like Tony Pollard. I would love to go Tank and then Pollard here with my back-to-back picks. There goes Calvin Ridley. Yeah, we're going to rip Tank Dell here really, really confidently. Don't even need to really think too much on this one. Tank Dell, who was number 14 in half PPR points per game last season, going after Calvin Ridley, going after George Pickens. Pretty good T. Higgins pick there. We'll see if Tony Pollard slides to me. I kind of think he will, but we will see about that. They're picking defenses. Pick a kicker. I hope this guy picks a kicker too. I can't believe in $100 league like this, we got kickers and defenses going in rounds 7, 8, and 9. I love this. Roma Dunze, not a terrible pick there. I mean, kind of crazy with how close he went to Tank Dell, and I'll gladly take Tony Pollard as my RB3 on this team. I'm feeling really good about how this team's shaping up here, guys. We just snagged 2 very high upside bench players. Not even in the starting lineup, 2 top 25 players in their positions. Wide receiver 24 and Tank Dell, wide receiver RB 25 and Tony Pollard. Like this is how you use the app to just crush. You look at the rankings. You got to consider the list of players on the platform you're drafting on, because so many people at this point in the draft, they're just going to be defaulting to that. So much value still to be had in this draft too. This is the part of drafts, man, that really gets me excited, because I think this is, if you lock in at this part of the draft, I really believe this is where you win your leagues, where you turn a great team into an unbeatable team. Like, I think I got a great team so far. We got all top 25 players at their respective positions. We got a top 5 tight end. We got a top number 1 quarterback. We got 3 top 25 running backs, 2 top 13 running backs. We got 3 top 20 receivers in the starting lineup, a top 24 receiver on the bench. Feel pretty good about this. We're drafting live on YouTube, by the way, guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, I'm in a real $100 draft. And in this real $100 draft, Happy PPR draft on Yahoo, we got Justin Tucker going in the 7th. We got the 49ers defense drafted in the 8th. A kicker defense, another Cowboys here, kicker defense, 49ers. And then Brandon Aubrey, 8-9 turn with plenty of league winners still on the board. Why not draft Ramondre Stevenson? Yes, let me run through the do not draft list here quick on the TikTok live. I also posted a video pinned to the account about why I'm not drafting every single one of these players. But Zamir White, Devin Singletary, Ramondre Stevenson, all the same issue. They're touchdown-dependent running backs on bad offenses. Antonio Gibson's going to steal receiving work from Mondre. Zamir White is the 3rd best receiving back in his own team, I would argue. I think that Dylan Lobb is clearly a better receiving back than him. I think Madison's probably a better receiving back than him. Arguably, Amir Abdullah is a better receiving back than him, too. He might actually be the worst receiving back on the team, Zamir White. And do you think the Raiders are going to score a lot of points? Because they need to score a lot of points for Zamir White to hit in fantasy football. He needs to get to 10 touchdowns to pay off his round 7 costs. And he needs to get to 15 touchdowns to legitimately win leagues. I just don't want guys on my team that I don't think can win my fantasy league. I think Zamir White, Devin Singletary, Ramondre Stevenson, sure, these guys might help you avoid last place. They got a lot of projectable volume, but they're in bad offenses, and they're not going to be able to catch enough passes to legitimately win you your fantasy league. Be a top 5 running back in fantasy football and win fantasy leagues. And there's guys going in rounds 11, 12, 13, 14 that might not be starting in week 1, but at least have legitimate league winning upside. Guys like Blake Core, who are an injury away from being a top 5 running back in fantasy. There's just no world where Ramondre Stevenson, Devin Singletary, or Zamir White are top 5 running backs in fantasy. There's just not a world where that happens. Why Achane over London? Yeah, so there's a steep running back cliff here. I personally think Achane was the last guy left in these early rounds. I took Achane here in round 2. I had the 3rd pick, went CeeDee Lamb, Achane, 1-2 start. Followed it up with Josh Allen, Malik Neighbors, Kenneth Walker, Kyle Pitts, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Tony Pollard. Feeling really good about this start in a half PPR format like this. But yeah, Achane was the last running back on the board that could legitimately finish as the number 1 overall running back in fantasy football. I don't think you could make a great case for any of the other guys that went after him. That's why I'm drafting Devon Achane. I want the guy at the end of that tier. And I think Devon Achane, who, by the way, finished number 4 in fantasy points per game in half PPR leagues last year at the running back position, I drafted him as the running back 9 in this draft. Even where he's getting drafted, I think if he's in the same role as last year, he can produce enough value to be worth a 2nd round pick. And I think that he can still get a bigger role than last season and then just win fantasy leagues and be the number 1 overall running back. He has that ceiling. Brees over CMC in the 1 spot, standard. Yeah, I think it's a little nuts. Why not Kelsey? Because Kelsey scored under 10 points in every single fantasy football playoff game last season. Because he was rested down the stretch as they geared him up for the actual NFL playoffs. And he's 35 years old now. They're going to do the same thing. I don't want to draft a 35-year-old tight end that I'm not confident will be at full throttle in the fantasy football playoffs when it matters most, when you actually win your fantasy leagues. Travis Kelsey helped a lot of teams make the playoffs last year, but did not help any teams win their fantasy football championship. He went under 7 half PPR points weeks 15, 16, 17, as they throttled back his workload a little bit. What's the thought process behind Achane, Sam? Yeah, so the thought process, I was just talking about it. The thought process ultimately is he was number 4 running back in points per game last season. In a season where he only got a third of the carries and an 11% target share. So he can get that same role, stay healthy all season, and be a top 5 running back in points per game. Might that come in a few huge games that are auto wins that week with Achane? And then average out to a top 5 running back? It might work out that way. I think that's a fine second-round pick if he finishes a top 5 running back in points per game like he did last season. And then there's also just such a clear path for a much bigger workload, right? If he gets to a 50% rush share, even a 40% rush share, if he gets to a 13 or 14 or 15% target share, which is absolutely possible, we saw games last season, 27% target share, 14% target share, 16% target share. We saw games at full health, 14% target share. Like he can get to a 15% target share this season. And if he does get to 40% rush share, 15% target share with efficiency, even like 40% worse than last season, he's a top 5 running back in fantasy football. So like I think the floor is actually pretty close to where he's getting drafted. And I think the ceiling is beating Christian McCaffrey. And he's the last running back in drafts that could like legitimately just beat out Christian McCaffrey in a bigger role. He might need an injury to get that, but he also might not. Raheem Mostert's 32 years old. So yeah, I'm in on Achane for sure this year. This is a half PPR league, which makes me a little less excited about Achane, but in full PPR, I think it's an even more bigger no-brainer. If you guys are watching live on YouTube, guys, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. Do appreciate that. Chase Brown, next best running back available. Keenan Allen is still there. That's also pretty interesting. The fat Keenan stuff is like really, really hitting people. 78. Usually he's going to 83rd overall. What pick is this? We're pick 98. Seems reasonable to me. I can probably get Chase Brown. He's the next best running back here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Keenan. This feels around 10. Keenan Allen feels pretty decent to me. He's my wide receiver 5 now. And I just know there's I'm going to be wanting going running backs in probably at least 2 of these next 3 picks. And there's a lot of running backs I think that have just as high of a ceiling as Chase Brown and maybe a little bit lower of a week 1 floor than Chase Brown. But I don't really care about the week 1 floor at this point. I'm not drafting starters. I'm a little bit out, I think, on Chase Brown. I think Zach Moss is like the clear goal line back on that team. This is the 3 things you care about. Using Jess Walter Picks code right now. Love to hear that. Take a breath. I got you. I've been told I talk fast on these live streams. All right, back on the clock. JSN gets taken. Chase Brown's still there. Brock Bowers also still there. As is Njoku. Xavier Worthy still there. I kind of think I go Xavier Worthy here and then wrap up the receiver position. Yeah, we're going to do that. Probably have too many receivers at this point. I got 2 more bench spots. They're both going to have to be running backs. I'll have 3 running backs, 3 receivers on the bench, which is what I like to do. Go kicker defense. My defense is the Seahawks this season. Keenan's targets were pretty insane last year. He dropped pretty low here. Yeah, this is just a little too late, I think, for Keenan Allen to be going. He was number 3 in points per game last season. Obviously, a much different spot he's in this year with much tougher competition. Last year, he was the only guy. Part of the reason you look at Keenan Allen's numbers from last year, it's part of the reason I'm in on Ladd McConkey, who again, this is again why part of the reason I like to go running back early in these drafts. You see these receiver values. I just got Keenan Allen in round 10, Xavier Worthy in round 11, Tank in round 8, Bryce in round 7. Even Neighbors in round 4, I think, is a pretty good value comparison to where Marvin Harrison Jr. is going. I think Rome Odunze is a very, very good receiver. I think all of the top 5 rookie receivers are going at pretty good value at drafts. Marvin Harrison Jr. is super expensive. He feels like he's getting drafted a little bit closer to a ceiling than the rest of the guys. But Malik Neighbors, I think in round 4 and 5, I've seen him go in round 6. Smash pick there. Rome Odunze, where he's going, he went a little early in this draft, went round 9, but even still not a bad value pick there. He's got really high ceiling. Brian Thomas Jr. in round 10. Don't hate that. Xavier Worthy in round 11. Don't hate that either. The top 5 rookie receivers are all really, really good. And I think Ladd McConkey also has a really high ceiling. He's going super late in drafts. you look at the target totals for Keenan Allen last season, someone's going to have to fill this void, and Ladd McConkey is probably the most likely to do it. Thomas Jr. versus Dunze. Yeah, it's a Dunze over Thomas Jr. for me. Like, it's a little bit more target competition, but I'm willing to just bet on the better talent profile, and that is Roma Dunze. I think like my comp for Brian Thomas Jr., like the ceiling for him is, I think, a DK Metcalf type player. Not something I say lightly too. I think that means like a really, really high ceiling. But Adunze is still a better receiver than him. Like a Adunze ceiling, I think, is more like a Keenan Allen type guy. Higher ceiling, higher floor, better projection. Walter agrees with me here too in the Walter Picks app. What round should I pick Amari Cooper? Yeah, so I'm in a 10-man league right now on the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio if you want to watch me live in this YouTube draft. We got 4 rounds left, but this is really where I'm locked in to the draft and just like where I'm cementing the league winning roster here. I'm going to need a couple more running backs for sure. Feel pretty confident I'm going to find some high upside ones with how, wow, he's still here. Blake Corum for sure I want. Trey Benson I still think has a really high ceiling. And then late in drafts, Braylon Allen, I think, is a really good handcuff, high upside handcuff. I did draft Kenneth, not the worst idea to draft Star. Where did Jonathan Brooks go in this draft? I did want to try to target him. He went a couple picks after Tony Pollard. Maybe I should have gotten Brooks there. Stashed him on the IR, freed up a roster slot. I do think it's smart if you have IR slots to be drafting Jonathan Brooks. Yeah, I do think McConkey just has a higher ceiling than Palmer. I actually think we have Palmer maybe projected ahead of him. We don't. It's close here, but like I think there's a reasonable argument to project Palmer with a bigger target share than McConkey, but McConkey's ceiling is just undoubtedly higher as the young rookie coming in. We kind of know what the ceiling is for Josh Palmer. I think we've seen something close to it. We saw him as sort of the wide receiver 1 at times last season. Didn't have a single game over 20 half PPR points. I think Ladd McConkey's ceiling is much higher in enough to justify taking him ahead of Josh Palmer in drafts. Out on Chase Brown. Yeah, I am a bit out on Chase Brown. He does sort of fit. If he falls to me here with his next pick, I actually probably will take him just since he's fallen really far. He was top on the board my last 2 picks. So it seems like nobody wants him. Blake Corum did go ahead of him in this draft. Yeah, there goes Zeke. I will end up taking Chase Brown since he fell so far. The problem for me with Chase Brown is just that Zach Moss, I think, is the clear goal line back. Like, I just don't see Chase Brown getting enough of the goal line work to score enough touchdowns. He needs enough receiving volume, and he needs to score some touchdowns to like really hit. And I think he's going to need an injury to Zach Moss for that ultimately to happen. Should I pick Cooper Kupp at the 303? Yeah, I like Cooper Kupp in round 3. I was considering him here, especially if you're in a PPR league. I think that's a good pick in a PPR format. Thoughts on Calvin Ridley and Alvin Kamara this year? I think Calvin Ridley is getting a little slept on. Talked about him in the live stream I did yesterday. Trey Benson goes. I did draft Kenneth Walker. I don't really hate going with Zach Charbonnet. Handcuff. Jalen Wright sitting there too, though. I did go H-N. I actually think I should go Jalen Wright. This is my last pick. Where I got to go kicker defense. Yeah, we're going to go Jalen right here. Get the H-N handcuff. I do like getting right if I draft H-N or Mostert. Just a clear smash pick if Mostert or H-N miss time. I think he's one of the higher upside handcuffs. Pretty shallow rosters. I mean, there's going to be some league-winning players in the waiver wire in this league for sure. It's going to have to be grinding the waiver wires all season. You think Jamar will play? Yeah, I mean, I still lean towards the most likely outcome is Jamar Chase signing a contract. Every day that passes without him signing a contract, it gets more and more risky, more and more likely he's going to actually end up missing time. So every single day that passes, the odds of him missing week 1 go up just a little bit. At this point, I'd probably put the odds at 65-35 that he plays week 1 though, and that it's not a long contract dispute. It's pretty unprecedented for Jamar Chase to hold out into a long stretch during the season. It's just bad for everyone involved, right? It's bad for Jamar Chase. He's going to lose hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And it's bad for the Bengals. They're just going to lose games without Jamar Chase, who's arguably their best player. So in most of these scenarios, like the teams and the players, they come together, they figure something out that works for everybody, and they get the contract together, and he's on the field early. What offenses in general do we think to target and to avoid? Yeah, so some of my favorite offenses to target this season. I mean, obviously, you got the ones at the top, the Chiefs, the Eagles, definitely two offenses I want pieces of. The Lions, I mean, the Eagles and the Lions offensive lines are just locked in top 5 offensive lines again. So I like the high end pieces on those teams. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gibbs, Laporte is the tight end one this year. He's going a little bit early for me. I do like targeting the Falcons offense, Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts to me is the easiest to get though, because the Bijan and Drake London, people understand the upside with them. Like they're going in round 1 and 2, right? Bijan went a little late, actually, I think in this draft, 8 overall. I think he really should be a top 5 pick in every league. Drake London went in round 2 in this league, and then Kyle Pitts, he didn't go till round 6 when I took him in this draft. Feel really good how this team shaped out, by the way. Starting roster here for me in this half PPR $100 Yahoo league, Josh Allen to QB. We got the number 1 overall quarterback in 3 of the last 4 seasons. He's been top 3 in back-to-back seasons. That's who our quarterback is. We got CeeDee Lamb, who's the number 1 receiver last season in points per game. We got Achane, who was the number 4 running back in points per game last season. Has a clear path to a bigger role this year. And even if he doesn't get a bigger role, he was already a top 5 running back last season in his existing role. Then we got Malik Neighbors, rookie receiver, who legitimately could get a 30% target share just right out of the gates. There's very, very few teams you can look at and point to the best player and then the next best player and be as big of a gap as Malik Neighbors has. It goes Malik Neighbors, then we're looking at Wan'Dale Robinson or Darius Slayton. Like, honestly, the only other team I think I could point to with such a big gap is arguably the Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb. It goes CeeDee Lamb to Jake Ferguson. And then another huge drop in just the weapons there. This offense is going to run through Malik Neighbors. I think he's got a really high floor and ceiling, even with Daniel Jones and kind of a scary Giants offense. We've seen rookie receivers on bad offenses have a lot of success before. If they can get over 25% target share, they're probably going to be good fantasy picks. You're rocking with Saquon this year. Yeah, I don't dislike Saquon this year. I'm not going to underrate the massive efficiency boost for Saquon going from a bottom 5 Giants offensive line to a top 5 Eagles offensive line. Like, it just absolutely is going to lead to an efficiency boost and a touchdown boost. I'm not that scared of the tush push. Was just offered Harrison Jr. and Achane for Chase and Jerome Ford, accept? Yeah, it's a fair trade. I'd be fine with this. I think it's a fair trade. I mean, you're definitely downgrading a receiver when Chase comes back, but I think Harrison Jr. is not too far off. And Achane's a huge upgrade over Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford, I do think, is one of the better sleepers in fantasy right now, though. Where did Jerome Ford go in this draft that I'm in right now? I'm not seeing him on this draft board. Nick Chubb went around 12. The latest I've seen him go in any of these drafts. I will not be drafting any Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford went around 8. I've seen drafts where Nick Chubb's picked before Jerome Ford. Round 8 is a reasonable price, but Jerome Ford is like locked into a really consistent role, and he catches passes too. Isaiah Pacheco or ETN. Yeah, I think I lean. God, that one's actually really close. I actually think the rankings for us have it as ETN, but I might lean Pacheco just because of the offense. No, we actually have Pacheco a little bit ahead of ETN, so Walter agrees with my gut instinct there. Just betting on the Chiefs. He's almost no competition. They signed Samaje Perine. I'm not too scared about that. What do you like about the Seahawks defense? Just look at the first 2 week matchups. Go look at the first 2 weeks of matchups for them. We'll take them. I'll probably go kicker first here. Who's the kicker is telling me to take? Jake Moody, 49ers. Don't mind that. And then we'll go Seahawks. So the Seahawks, they play the Denver Broncos in week 1. So they get Bo Nix. And then week 2, they get Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots. I mean, it's the best back-to-back matchups for any defense. And the Seahawks also added a bunch of defensive talent this offseason. There's reason to believe they'll be a much better defense this year. But every week, I'm just going to play the defenses playing the Patriots and the Broncos, and whoever ends up being the worst offense this season. I'm a matchup-based defense person when it comes in fantasy football. I think that makes a lot of sense. Just give me the defenses playing the worst teams, and that to start the season this year, it's the Seahawks. Guys, make sure you download the Walter Picks app if you have not download the Walter Picks app yet. If you have drafts coming up, are you going with all the Walter recommendations? No, Joe, I don't always go with all the Walter recommendations. Some people do it that way, especially if you really don't know anything about fantasy, or you just don't have any conviction about any given thing. Then I think like going with all Walter's recommendations is probably the smart move. And a lot of times when I go against Walter, it ends up being a really bad decision. But I also fantasy football is about fun, and sometimes I want specific players in a slightly different order than Walter recommends. I really also like I use the Walter Picks app in a way where I'm looking at the tiers of rankings and think considering those very strongly in my drafts. I'm not going to really jump tiers from the Walter Picks app and like really go rogue. But if we have guys right next to each other, like Saquon and JT, they're right next to each other. I personally kind of lean Saquon over JT just slightly. The Walter Picks app has JT projected a little bit ahead of Saquon, but they're like 0.2 points per game different. Like they're really, really close together. So like in those situations, I'm okay going Saquon if I have a strong read on the efficiency boost he's going to get going from the Giants to the Eagles. Would you trade Dogs for Harrison? I don't know who that is. Thoughts on Pittman versus Waddle versus DK? Yeah, I think I would rank these guys Waddle, DK, Pittman. I'm a little bit scared about Michael Pittman. I'm a little bit scared about all those Colts receivers because I think Josh Downs is going to be mixed in more than people realize. Josh Downs probably didn't even get picked in this draft. He didn't. He's not even going drafted in this 10-man league. Some interesting receivers here that are going to be on the waiver wire in this league. How do you value the 3 Houston wide receivers? Yeah, I just think Tank's the best value because he's the cheapest. I think they're all good picks. I think they're all going to be a little bit more inconsistent than you want in fantasy, but they're all going to have huge, huge, huge weeks. Gibbs Hammy scare you? Nope. Gibbs Hammy does not scare me. Got ETN round 3. Yeah, it's a good pick. Yeah, Derek, I do have some recommendations. It definitely depends on your league settings. Every auction draft is different, of course. I do like going the studs and duds approach, though, especially at the running back position. Similar thing to what I was saying here. Like, I really just think there's a very short list of running backs that can legitimately be the number 1 overall running back in fantasy this season. And in auction drafts, like you can just go get 2 or 3 of these guys, and then you got to piece it together with value late. But for Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Brees, Saquon, Bijan, Gibbs, and Achane, those I want 2 or 3 of those running backs in auction drafts, and you can do it in auction drafts. There's 7 of those guys. 2 of those 7, 3 of those 7. Again, depends too. If you start with 3 receivers, then I might not go with that approach. If you start 2 receivers, I don't think that's bad. And then you can easily pay down at quarterback and get a quarterback under $5 that's going to be fine, or get 2. You can get Deshaun Watson for free. He's got top 5 quarterback upside if he stays healthy. Get Deshaun. Get Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff. All these guys are going to go pretty much free in single quarterback auction leagues. Jaden Daniels. Just piece together Jaden Daniels, Deshaun, or Jaden Daniels, Goff, or Jaden Daniels, Trevor Lawrence. You can also pay down at tight ends super easily in these leagues. Get Njoku. Get Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts. Sometimes can go really cheap. You don't really need to pay up at tight end. So yeah, I like going for those elite running backs that can win the league. And then you're going to find value as you go at receiver. Some of the rookie receivers, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., they'll go way too cheap. Who built Walter? What's the story behind the platform? I built the app with a team of many other people. We got 7 people full-time on the Walter Picks team at this point. I started the company, though, with my dear friend and co-founder, Dylan. He's a full-stack engineer. I am a math person, content creator. Started the company 4 years ago. It's been a lot of fun, really exciting. Appreciate all the support from everyone, and this live stream was a lot of fun. The Walter Picks app is going to help you dominate your fantasy draft. Let me show you guys really quick on the TikTok live. Let me grab this for you. For everyone watching on the YouTube live, you guys already sharing the screen with you guys. But we just did a half PPR $100 Yahoo draft here. You can see my team here from the 3 slot: CeeDee Lamb, Devon Achane, Josh Allen, Malik Neighbors, Kenneth Walker, Kyle Pitts, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Tony Pollard. Keenan Allen went in round 10 of this draft. Absolutely crazy. Xavier Worthy, Chase Brown, Jalen Wright. Seahawks defense is my favorite pick this year because they play the Broncos and then they play the Pats. But look, I had the Walter Picks app open the whole time. This is what the Walter Picks app will do for you. Help me decide really throughout the whole draft what positions I should be considering, top players available, some of which went like multiple rounds after they really should have. Updated pick by pick. Taysom Hill still available in this draft. Very interesting. But yeah, we grabbed Achane. I felt good about that. And you can see too, like on my team, I got the number 1 overall quarterback. I got 2 top 15 running backs. I got 3 top 20 receivers and a top 5 tight end. And again, Kyle Pitts, he led the NFL in air yards last season. He played wide receiver. He just has had a horrible quarterback, and he hasn't had a good red zone role either. We got Tank to hell on the bench. Tony Pollard on the bench too. I think the Titans are going to throw a ton. I think the Titans might lead the NFL in pass attempts this year. It's going to be huge for Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Keenan Allen in round 10, Xavier Worthy in round 11, Chase Brown, Jalen Wright to wrap it up. Do like grabbing the Jalen Wright handcuff if I draft Devon Achane. TikTok Live, that's my time, guys. Appreciate it. Time's the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me today. YouTube Live, we're going to wrap it up. I'll be back live. I'll probably be back live tomorrow, ripping another draft. Probably we'll do ESPN, maybe Sleeper tomorrow. We'll see. All my high stakes drafts are actually after this weekend, Tuesday and Wednesday. I got like 5 drafts. Everyone's squeezing in at the end this year. Odunze over Allen. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's that crazy to take Odunze over Allen. I do think Odunze, arguably has a little bit higher of a ceiling just because he's a little bit more of an unknown. But he's an extremely talented prospect. But I mean, like, it also wouldn't be shocking at all to see Keenan Allen outscore Odunze in fantasy football this season. Keenan Allen went way after him in this draft. Keenan Allen was the number 3 receiver in points per game in half PPR last season. He is old, 32 years old. He's like declining efficiency a little bit. I mean, 2.8 yards per route run isn't so bad. He started the season incredibly hot. Wide receiver one in 2 of the first 3 weeks last season. Malik or Waddle in round 3. Yeah, so I went Malik over Waddle in this draft, but I think I would have gone Waddle over Malik had I not drafted Devon Achane. I don't really love stacking receivers and running backs from the same team. Don't really love making huge bets, on one offense like that, which is why I went Neighbors over Waddle, but I think Waddle over Neighbors is fine. I would probably have done that. I think we do have Waddle ranked ahead of Neighbors. Let's do that comparison quick before we wrap up here on the live stream. Good luck, guys, in your drafts. Definitely use the app. You can sync your league, custom insights. It's going to help you. Yeah, it's Waddle. It's Waddle just bare. And the ceiling for Waddle is also just so high. It's so high. He's got the contingent upside if Tyreek ever misses time, but he really doesn't need Tyreek to miss time to absolutely smash. He has such a high weekly ceiling. He's dealing with something right now. Returns from injury after 2 weeks, but it wasn't even reported what the injury was. Tyreek Hill's dealing with a thumb thing. Doesn't seem serious. All right, guys, that's my time. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back live tomorrow to talk through more draft strategy. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Good luck, everybody. I'll be back live super soon.